Okay, all right, and I believe that we are in fact live. Welcome to Monday Meets here at the Willow. This is our chance to chat with staff from the Willow, talk to them, get to know them a little bit, get to know about their programs. As always, if anybody out there has any questions, you can feel free to leave them in the comments section of Facebook Live, and I am kind of keeping an eye on that on my phone, even as we speak, and I will try to get those for you. If you have any questions after the presentation, if you're watching the recording and you're like, I want to know more about something, feel free to go ahead and email us. I will throw our emails down there in the comments section, the description section of the YouTube. We're very excited today. I use we. I don't know why. It's just me. But speaking as a representative of the Willow, the agency as a whole is very excited to welcome Taylor Jones, our Director of Community Services. Hi, Taylor.
Hi. I'm excited too. You can say we're excited. I'm excited too. This is really cool that you put this together. So I was excited when you asked me to come. So
well, we were, kind of in the we got to the pandemic times, and all of a sudden it was like outreach became really a little more tricky, and this seemed like a good way to kind of bridge that gap, get to know people a little bit, get to know the Willow services a little bit. So it's been really, really fantastic. And I've talked to a couple of people who you work with on a regular basis. So we've met with a few of the rural outreach coordinators and Shannon from Court Advocacy. So we've covered some of these aspects a little bit, but we'll just assume that nobody knows anything going into this. And if anybody has any questions, again, do feel free to leave them in the comment section and we will try to get to them. So Taylor, let's start with just kind of what is community services in the aspect of in relation to the Willow? What areas does that comprise, and how does that work?
So it works a lot of different ways, right? So I'll try to section it off in a way that feels digestible for everyone. So I oversee about 5 different programs that are community based. So we basically cover almost everything that isn't going to be covered in our shelter services. So I supervise advocates that are working directly in the community with folks that may not necessarily need or want shelter at this time, but are still either trying to work out logistics, even right now with the pandemic hitting, or just trying to just seek out services based on relationships, either for themselves or for a loved one or for their children. So we do have the court advocacy program. You did talk with Shannon before. So offering any sorts of court advocacy in our entire service area being Jefferson, Franklin, and Douglas County. We are present at all of those courts, all of those dockets, just to provide outreach, which looks a little different. I'm pretty sure Shannon mentioned how much of that has gone virtual. So we're still trying to be present, even in the virtual world. If clients are comfortable with us, showing up to their cases, then we will try to do that and provide some sort of clarity afterwards to make sure everyone's on the same page, everyone understands that kind of hard and difficult just legal jargon. We're kind of here for that as well. And so then we also just have our rural county offices. So we don't have anyone housed in those offices right now, but we do have advocates that are prepared to meet anyone in Jefferson and Franklin County for emergency needs for right now, but that might change in the future depending on case numbers and things like that. So if anyone is still needing to safety plan, fill out any protection orders, or maybe even have any medical needs, we're definitely trying to figure that out and be as accommodating as possible. And then we have our HopeWorks program. So we also have advocates who specifically work with survivors who are receiving cash assistance or food assistance or childcare assistance. Any of that sort of work that they're doing with the Department of Children and Families, the Willow has also partnered with DCF to kind of step in and be of any relief that a survivor may need, just because that journey just looks a little bit different, trying to navigate public benefits while also very much dealing with the heaviness of domestic violence or stalking or trafficking or sexual assault. So yeah, we just try to be there to kind of work in conjunction with DCF to get goals met. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of the different areas we're covering.
So basically everything programming-wise, the majority of things programming-wise that don't directly involve shelter. And that kind of actually segues into my next question. I mean, a lot of people know us still as primarily a shelter. And there has been this kind of dramatic shift in the services that we can provide in COVID and still maintain safety under public health regulations. So as that shelter has kind of become more difficult, and we've kind of the two areas seem to have blended maybe a little bit. Can you kind of run us through what types of services that people who seek community service might be seeking, like what that might entail?
Yes, I would say they are pretty similar in the sense that we can pretty much do anything that shelter advocates are doing besides provide that shelter. Unfortunately, we have one shelter as an agency, and we're working on two, right? But for our folks in like the rural counties, that looks a little bit different, because coming to Douglas County for shelter doesn't necessarily work with their life right now. Children are going back to school. That's going to be a little bit difficult to kind of have to make that transport every day for school or for work. So when that's not an option, we are fortunate enough to have a lot of grant assistance for funding to try to go around shelters. So if that does still mean that we need hotel stays, or we are able to work with landlords to just try to, break one lease, but then make something new happen in another place. That's what's pretty fortunate about community services, that I would say. We still can do safety planning like shelter staff can. We still can provide that sort of case management. Right now, it just looks a little bit different for us because it's either going to be virtually or over the phone. But a lot of that can still be done as if somebody were in shelter. Something I would say that is a bit different is our support group. We do have community support groups that are offered for folks. Please don't tell me I was frozen. Was I frozen?
Just for a second, but it was a split second. Nobody.
But yeah, something that is just different is our support groups. The support groups that we offer, pretty much for anyone. Anyone is welcome to come. We provide whoever is interested with our code for virtual support group, and they're more than welcome to attend that and kind of feel that that sense of community and similarities that they're able to share with other survivors, I would say.
So yeah, I think it's important to kind of put this in perspective for those who may be still a little unclear on some of the distinctions, and that one important thing that I didn't know before I sort of started with the Willow is that a survivor will return to their abuser often up to 8 or 9 times because for various reasons, but a lot of those reasons have to do with sort of the economic control, the financial control, and the psychological abuse. And so community services, you really address, you spend a lot of time sort of empowering folks around those needs, right? And what sorts of forms will those sorts of conversations, those sorts of advocacy conversations take?
Yeah, that for sure. Our goal is just to be a constant in people's lives. what we always try to stress when training advocates or volunteers is to let them know the survivors that we're working with are the experts in their lives. They're going to know their situation better than any of us. They're going to know their partner better than any of us. So never are we here to tell someone what they're supposed to be doing or what they should be doing, that you need to stay or you need to go. None of that is ever being communicated from us. So right with that, how you mentioned that the average could take about 7, 8, 9 times to leave an abusive situation. That's a very real reality that we see a lot, and that is okay. I feel our team is so good at encouraging each other and building up that that endurance for that kind of work. Because right, we say the average, but for someone, right, it might take 2. For someone, it could be 20 there. And so we are for sure trying to just be that constant to let someone know, regardless if it's 2, 7, or 20, that we're still going to be here, and we will be here for whatever it is that you need. You let us know, and then we'll try to navigate with you what the resources and context can be from there, which I feel has helped so much. I think a lot of people will not want to reach out just based on that fear of judgment or guilt or shame for returning to a situation that may be abusive. And we for sure don't want to be a component of that or an additive to that. So yeah.
May not want to do group living. They may have some resources for shelter.
Yeah.
Still need to get those financial or economic or other resources as well. And so I want to touch back a little bit on something you had mentioned earlier, and that was support groups. Now we had physical support groups where folks met up in person regularly. Can you kind of talk about where that's at and how somebody might get involved with those if they feel like they could benefit from them?
Awesome. Yes. So we did have in-person support groups for many different reasons. So depending on what the need is, we probably have it. We were working with the amazing Tony Deathridge. For folks who are in the community or live in the community, if you know of her, you know her work is just awesome and amazing. So we did have a contract with her to do healthy relationships, but also just successful or positive parenting as well. And so we are still trying to work on that and get her in and get involved somehow, some way. So hopefully we have an update coming soon for that. In the meantime, we do still have our virtual support group that's held on Thursdays at 3 p.m. So how someone would be able to get in contact with us is they can email myself. I'm not sure if we're adding that to our posts. Emails are so you'll find our emails and our contact below, and just let me know or let someone else on our staff know that you're interested. We'll just give you the code, go over some agreements, because confidentiality is still everything. We for sure want to protect each other because a lot goes on and is said in those groups, and so we just want that to be a safe space for everyone. So that's usually the only thing, is that we just go over those agreements, give whoever needs the code, and they're more than welcome to join us. If they also just it's better or more accessible for them to get a hold of us by phone. Also just feel free to call the helpline or our administrative office and get a hold of somebody there. My extension is 104, and just let us know that you're interested in that, and I will set you up. Yes.
Nice. I'll use this as a chance to take a little radio plug and just say, if you're just joining us, welcome to Monday Meets with Taylor Jones. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment box below. I will try to get them in as we go through. If you have them later on and you're watching the recording, feel free to email us. Let us know. But we're talking community services, and it is great. Let's talk about rural outreach for a moment. Now, I have, as I said, talked to a couple of rural outreach coordinators, but I used to manage those rural areas as well. So this is one of the areas that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Can we talk about sort of what community services looks like in those rural areas and what the particular challenges are in those rural areas?
Yeah. I love doing work in the rural counties. Each of them again, for those who are just joining us, so we do serve Douglas County, but we also serve Jefferson and Franklin County. So just to the north of us and just to the south of us, who are in Lawrence. But I love them because they're each very unique in their own way and have their own needs in their very unique way. Everything just runs different. Their courts run different. Everything is just different and unique in each area, and that's what I love about them. But we're still finding our way and having successful partnerships and successful outreach. So that's what I've been most excited about these past couple of years that I've been in this position. So that a lot of the services out there look more like outreach. We do a lot of individual work with clients. I would say the biggest way that we get them, our biggest referrals, are our partners though, and through outreach. So that's a lot of presentations in the community and with community partners. Also being on, what I can think about in particular with Franklin County is we have a heavy presence at Ottawa University in Ottawa. So we actually have office hours there. So we're pretty accessible, I would say, in each of those counties, usually when we're not remote. So a lot of that is right, just heavy on the outreach, heavy on the presentations. And I think a challenge usually is just resources, or a lot of resources or assistance kind of being focused on the bigger areas. And unfortunately, that's when the rural counties kind of get overlooked. And therefore we think maybe it's not happening out there, right? So why put the resources out there? Why put the assistance out there if no one is out there or it's not happening out there? So I think that we've been doing a great job in trying to kind of debunk that myth that rural counties are exempt from domestic violence. And our partners have just been awesome in helping with that. Law enforcement, city and county commissions, like everyone has just been willing to offer a helping hand in promoting that awareness, which has been amazing.
Nice, nice. So looking forward to the future of the organization, not just in your role, but the Willow as a whole, where would you like to see the Willow go kind of in the next 3 to 5 years moving forward? What would you like to see us focus on? What would you like to see, you know, maybe some challenges that you'd like to address, or things that are going well that you'd like to extend out?
Yeah, so much, I feel. I think to touch back on what we were talking about with the rural counties, I am hearing and listening to many community members, and so many folks have interest in, you know, shelters out there that are going to be more accessible to the folks that are out there. So that's just been something that I've been thinking about for a while. And again, we would be so far from that, but I don't want it to sound like it's going unnoticed or that it's being ignored. I think that's awesome that community members and community partners are stepping up to voice that concern or voice that that desire to have something more accessible for folks in the rural counties. So I think that would be nice to see.
Yeah.
I feel like it is known around the agency. I am Miss Batterers Intervention proponent. So I am always going to be a fan of trying to push curriculum and funding for Batterers Intervention Program scholarships, just because the way that this movement goes, I would love to see a world where a lot of the responsibility and burden is not put on survivors for what they've gone through, and making it their responsibility to heal emotionally, financially, or anything like that, and not kind of have some sort of prevention piece out there. And we do a lot of prevention, and I think BIP can be something that's added to that. Not particularly for us to partner with somebody. What's up, Will?
Well, here's the thing, Taylor. I totally forgot to put anything in about that in our conversation notes, and now you've got me. You reminded me, and I'm like, I really feel like we should talk about this.
Yeah.
haven't really addressed it so far in any of the Monday meets, and I do think it's absolutely fundamentally important. So can we talk a little bit about batterers intervention?
I'd love to. Yeah, let's do that.
Who aren't necessarily familiar with what it is, maybe just a little bit about the program, what we offer to the program, and how it kind of fits in. And I think you've covered a little bit of how it fits in with the beautiful statement about placing the burden not just on the survivors, but on the abusers as well. But look, go ahead and let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I love talking about. I can talk about this all day, every day. So yes, BIP or batterers intervention programs are aimed at those who have identified as having some sort of abusive tactics. I would say charged with battery or some sort of domestic abuse, but not everyone is charged. Some people do go to those programs voluntarily, so I do want to recognize them as well. So those sorts of programs, I feel, have been doing an awesome job in just promoting prevention and accountability, because the target audience is the folks that are displaying this power and control over someone else in their household. So I just feel like that is going to be our way into a new scenery for this movement of anti-violence, is getting to that core audience. So we've been lucky enough to receive funding from the Department of Children and Families, and what we were doing with those funds for a while was funding scholarships for that specific program, so that we are educating the entire family on domestic violence, familial violence, and just what power and control looks like, so that the entire family is being educated. So we covered that with our support group and having Tony come in. We've been covering that with the amazing Alexandria and all of the work that she's doing in the schools, and what she's doing now virtually. And so, right, that piece that we still want to be building on is perpetrators or abusers of violence, and how that education and prevention tactic could help movement towards just like anti-violence and peaceful families.
Yeah, great. Well, I think, and if people want more information about that, again, you can send us an email. Taylor really will talk about it. Talk about it all day and all night. But we unfortunately we've got to wrap it up soon. But I do always like to ask folks if they have anything, kind of not work related that they love to do, that they love to talk about, that they want to shout out. So any shout outs?
Yes, that's not work related. I don't know. I love dancing in my spare time. So shout out to all of my past and or present dance families out there. Shout out to my dogs who have been quiet this entire time. I have 3 huge dogs, and I guess no deliveries have been made to my place because no one is barking, and that's awesome. So they will get so many treats after this because they've been so good. Yeah, those are like my shout outs. Shout out to you for putting this together. I know you said work related.
Well, I appreciate your time. I really do appreciate it. I do want to say, for the dancing, if anybody was wondering how serious she is, she actually coordinated the dance with Felix Rodriguez in Transformations 2 years ago, and it work. So I think she's underselling the dancing a little bit, but great job. Thank you so much, Taylor. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for everything that you do, and I love talking to all the folks on your team. They're fantastic, passionate advocates, and you are as well. So thank you so much. Thanks.